So we tested up to bills payables. We'll see pay alone concept. So what does it mean by pay alone? Say you have one supplier is requesting issue separate check for each invoice. Okay, supplier is requesting to issue separate check for each invoice. To achieve that, we have to set pay alone for that supplier. If you enable pay alone, system will force us to issue the separate check for every invoice. You cannot issue single check for multiple invoices. Okay, we'll see. When you talk about setups, just we have to enable one checkbox called as pay each invoice alone at supplier side level. For testing, we'll go and create one invoice and we'll try to process the payment. So we'll understand how this functionality will work. So go to supplier, procurement suppliers, go to sites, click on edit, and go to site assignments, go to payment tab, not site assignments. Under payment tab, we have a sub tab called as payment attributes, select. Under payment attributes, select payment specifications. Site level, go to payments, under payments, payment attributes, under payment attributes, payment specifications. Under payment specifications, we have one checkbox called pay each invoice alone. We are enforcing the rule in the system. Okay, we are enforcing the rule in the system. So to pay every invoice with a separate check, separate document. Save and close. Done. Okay. Now go to payment workbench. Go to payment workbench or call it as a payment work area. And we just plan to create one invoice. Let's create invoice, then we'll check. Create one invoice. $5,000. Validate. Validated. Now, if you go to manage installments, Here you see pay alone is enabled. It is defaulting from supplier side. I'll save and close. Now go to payment workbench. Say create payment. Select supplier. Select bank account. And here select invoice. Here is the invoice which we created after enabling pay alone, INC1. Here is a column called as pay alone. If you look at pay alone is applicable only for this invoice. These invoices we created before enabling pay alone. These invoices you can club and you can pay with a single document. Okay, here we have a single document, the check number. With this check number, with this document, you can select all these invoices. Because for those, pay alone is not applicable. You can select, you can select. So this is how you can select multiple invoices. For these invoices, pay alone is not applicable. For which invoices pay alone is applicable, you cannot select those invoices more than one with the combination of any other invoice also. Let's try. Again, go and select INC1. Now this invoice should be paid alone. In fact, you cannot select this invoice also. You cannot pay this invoice with other invoice because it is pay alone invoice. No, it is not pay alone invoice. Or you already selected pay alone invoice. Yes, this statement is correct. You already selected pay alone invoice. This is our system will not allow us to pay the pay alone invoices along with other invoices. We have to use separate document for each pay alone invoice. Now we have to pay alone. So this is the concept of pay alone. If any supplier is going to ask to pay each invoice with a separate check, we can enable this functionality. That's all about pay alone functionality. Now, we'll see how to create invoice and payment in foreign currency. How to create invoice and payment in the foreign currency. So when we talk about invoice and payment in foreign currency, we have to maintain daily rates or we call as exchange rates. Functionality, name Oracle given as a daily rates. Create daily rates. Create daily rates. When you create invoice in the other currency, the balances will be converted into our ledger currency. So if we want to create invoice in INR and we want to pay in INR, our ledger currency is USD. It means we have to define the conversion between the USD and INR and INR and USD. We have a bank account which allows us to pay only USD payments. At the time of bank account creation, we selected currency as USD. It means you can process the payment only in USD currency by using that bank account. Now we want to use the same bank account to process INR payments. For that, we have to give permissions to bank account to process any currency payments. For that, we have to enable one checkbox. Say enable multi-currency account at bank account level. Enable multi-currency account at bank account level. To create daily rates and enable bank account as a multi-currency account, so that we'll be able to create invoices and payments in the different currencies. If you have a daily rates, you can create invoice in the different currency. If you enable bank account as a multi-currency account, you'll be able to process the payment in the different currency. So we'll create invoice in INR, process payment in INR. We can create invoice in one currency, payment in different currency. Yes, that is also possible. We'll see after this. Fine. So daily rates, nothing but exchange rates. So when I talk about daily rates, exchange rates, we have a different type of rates. We call as spot rate. Okay. We call as spot rate, and we call as daily rate and corporate rate. And user defined rate also. Spot rate, daily rate, corporate rate, and the user defined rate. These are the rate types, exchange rate types.
What about average rate?
What is average rate? That is in the different concept, translation, average and rate. Okay, these are the rate types that you use only when you deal with the translation. Okay. So these are the rate types. When you deal with the foreign currency transactions, we use these rate types. Spot rate means we use ideally in the stock exchange. You are doing the trading when you are selling or buying some shares. At that point of time, what is the rate? That rate we call as spot rate. Daily rates. So every day, one rate can be fixed. That rate we follow, that we call as a daily rates. When you go to bank, we see today rate is so and so. That's how bank will display the exchange rates that we call as daily rate. The rate which you are fixing for a specific day, that we call as daily rates. There could be fluctuation within the day, but one rate we follow. That is a daily rate. And corporate rate. Corporate rate means we fix the rate for a specific period, means more than one day, maybe for 1 week or 10 days. We fix one rate, the same rate we follow, that we call as corporate rate. User defined means you no need to maintain any rate. When you are recording the transaction, you can just select any conversion. Okay, you can input. Instead of defining in the system, you can input. We cannot deal with the spot rates. Okay, anyway, it's for stock exchange. You cannot deal with the spot rates. You can maintain the daily rates or corporate rates or user defined means you don't need to define. When we are entering the transaction, you can enter whatever you want to enter, that we call as user defined rate, means user entered rate. So mostly you see corporate rate usage in the real world. Okay, corporate rate. So a specific rate they fix and they use it. Okay. So now we'll go and create the rate. The rates you can create in the spreadsheet. The rates directly you cannot create within the instance, that need to be created from the spreadsheet. Okay, we'll create in the spreadsheet, we'll import into our instance. First, we'll see how to create the daily rates. So you may create daily, you may create corporate, that we call as functionality name, they call as daily rates. The task what Oracle is giving, the task name is daily rates. By seeing the name daily rates, don't think daily rates means only daily rates. No. daily rate or corporate rate or any rate you are going to create the task name. For any currency related exchange rates you are going to create, the task name is daily rate. So we'll see how to create it. Go to instance, go to setup and maintenance. Search for daily rates. Manage daily rates. Select daily rates. Okay. Here, okay, here just you see, okay, fine. You see the date format which is followed, month, date and year. Or else you can fetch any one of the record and you can check. I want to check the rate with the first. So rate type is corporate. Search. Okay, rates are not available. Check with this. Yes, rate is available with the 1st Jan 2023. So rate is 70. $1 equal to 70 rupees. If you want to update this rate, you can update. You click on it, you will make it as 75. Okay, you can make it as 75. If you set $1 equal to how many rupees, inverse rate automatically system will update. Means 1 rupee is equal to how many dollars? 0.013 rupees. That's how system can update. How we are able to update? Because already this rate is created. This rate is loaded through spreadsheet. If rate already created, we can update. Or else we have to create the rate. But anyway, this is a past rate. We are here just to understand the kind of date format. Okay. Okay, date format. Say up to third, we want to check. You can see date format is month, date, and year. The same when we are entering these rates in the spreadsheet, the same format we have to follow. Month, date, and year. Done. So from where we can load the rates? How to load? Here is the spreadsheet. Click on create in spreadsheet. Okay, this is the ADFDA functionality. We have seen invoice creation in the AP by using the spreadsheet. If already that ADFDA file is installed and Excel options are set, you will be able to use the same functionality for rates also. Click on create in spreadsheet. Open the spreadsheet. Click on enable editing. Do you want to connect? Say yes. Fine. Here provide the login credentials. Please go on mute. Click on skip. Okay, the latest version is available. Do you want to install? So not required. Skip. So here we can enter the details. So from and to currency, you can select from drop down or directly also you can enter. Here I don't want to select from drop down. I can type INR. It will accept since the value is there in the drop down. So now this sheet is tightly connected with our instance. The values we are getting from instance only. Currency conversion rate type. Rate type. So select corporate. The other rates, period end average rates, will use the different concept not to record the transactions. We'll see that later. And from under two dates, here we have to provide the dates. We want to create the rates for which days. We have seen the date format, month, date, and year. Okay, month, date, and year. Month is John, date is 5th. Okay. I want to create 4th for 4th also and 24, and we want to create up to 10th. John 10th 24. What is the rate? So you want to make it 80. So inverse rate. We are defining the rate between USD and INR. What about INR to USD? INR to USD is the inverse rate. You no need to enter. During the load, system can take it automatically. So this is how you can provide the rates for multiple currencies also. Okay, here you may select USD and AED. You can enter. So multiple just currencies, we can enter the rates with a certain time frame, and that we have to load. Now click on submit. Click on submit. Based on the inputs, whatever you provided, the rates will be loaded. Say okay. Say okay. Just ignore this message, say okay. Now here we'll check with the today's date. Okay. So from first to from 4th, right? So 4th to 10th. Check. The 80 should be available. Yes. So we loaded 80. We given the date range as a 4th to 10th. Okay, 4th to 10th. Check up to 20th. No rates. We loaded up to 10th only. Yeah, when you are searching up to 20th, I think it is displaying only Jan 4th to Jan 10th only rates are available. That's what we loaded. Say done. So this is how we have to load the rates. After loading, if you want to update the rate, you can update. That is possible, but directly you cannot create within the spreadsheet, within the instance. The rates you have to load from the spreadsheet only. Now, so with these rates, we will be able to create invoice in the AP. We can create the invoice in the AP. Okay. Now, so when we are making the payment, the bank account we need with multi-currency. Okay, so we have to enable the checkbox. Go to bank account setup. Manage bank accounts. Find our bank account. Click on edit. And here, if you scroll little down, you see multi-currency account checkbox. The bank account we are maintaining in only USD currency. Other than USD, you cannot process any payments with this bank account. Okay, when you try to make the payment, see what will happen. Create payment. You select supplier. Select bank account. Currency is USD only. Because bank account level currency is USD. Can you change the currency? No. You have to pay USD payments if it is a bank, if it is the bank. You cannot change. But if you enable the checkbox, you will be able to change. Yeah. Enable multi-currency account and save and close. Done. So we completed required setups. Let's create invoice in the foreign currency first. Create invoice. Alt INC supplier. So what we'll do is, see, whenever we are typing here as a alt, okay, it is taking other our US withholding tax authority supplier also. We'll change the prefix to that supplier so that when we search alt, it won't fetch these two records. Directly, it will take our supplier name. For our testing convenience, search for alt INC, US tax authority. Click on edit. Go to profile. Done. Okay. Right. Now, from now, if any time you create invoice, you will not have any challenge. If you type alt, it will fetch one and only supplier. Right. So please go on mute. Somebody unmuted. And we want to create invoice in INR. Okay. INC, double one is the invoice number. And select invoice currency as a INR. Select invoice currency as INR and enter amount, say 1,000 rupees, and go to show more. We selected invoice currency as INR. Automatically system is selecting payment currency also INR. Yep. By default, invoice currency system will default as a payment currency. Go to lines, enter line amount, 1,000 rupees, select distribution set or enter manual distribution and validate the invoice. Validated. Now we want to make the payment for this invoice. So go to payment workbench, just cancel and reopen. Okay. Select supplier, select bank account. Now payment currency is editable. Okay, you can select since this bank account level. So we enable multi-currency account, you'll be able to process payments in any currency. Select you want to process the payment in which currency INR. Select payment process profile, Alt I and C. Payment process profile, select the payment document. Okay, now go to invoice selection. Okay, invoices to pay. When you look for the invoices, what system will do is we selected payment currency as INR. For how many invoices, payment currency is INR, those invoices only it will display. Again, those are belongs to only this site of for this supplier. Click on plus icon. We have only one. The same you can see. Okay, with the payment currency INR, we have only one invoice. Say okay. And here you can go to advanced tab and you can see the rate. Okay, into how many dollars? $12.50 accounted amount as per our ledger currency. So $12.50. Okay, so 1,000 rupees equal to this as per this currency conversion rate or rate which we have with the today's date. Say save and close. The payment will be recorded. Another point which you have to understand is go to common options. Go to common options. The common options we have two accounts, realized gain account and realized loss account. And currency conversion rate type is set to corporate. Okay. So when you are making the payment, automatically system is taking defaulting corporate since the conversion rate is set to corporate here. Okay, whatever you set here, accordingly it will take. If you select user, okay, if you select user, when you are recording the transaction, it won't take any rate. It will prompt us to enter. Right? So that's how it is. Since it is selected as corporate, that automatically is selecting. And when you make the payment, if any date difference between invoice creation, payment creation. So you created invoice today, the rate is 80. You are going to make the payment after 10 days. There is a rate fluctuation. Say it is turned into 75 or it is rise to 85. Now, because of that fluctuation in the rate between the day you created invoice and the day you are making the payment, system will identify gain or loss. Okay. We have to pay $1,000 only. To pay the $1,000, so instead of $12.50, we may have to use $13.50. Means $1 extra we are using, that is a loss. Or else because of fluctuation, to pay $1,000, you may have to use $11.50. That means $1 is gain for us. So if it is a gain, system will use this gain account. If it is a loss, it will use the loss account when you make the payment. After making the payment, if any fluctuation between the invoice creation date and payment creation date within the currency, it will, if it is gain, it will take into gain account. If it is loss, it will take into loss account when you run the accounting for payment. Okay. Now, whatever we paid, the same day we paid, so no gain, no loss. If any date difference and rate difference, date and rate difference between the invoice creation and the payment creation, system will use this any one of this account and it will account for that payment. So that is another point just we should aware. So that's all about invoice creation in foreign currency and payment in the foreign currency. Here one more concept. We have seen invoice creation and payment creation in the same currency. That is foreign currency. Okay, that is foreign currency. So sometimes you may have to create invoice in one currency, payment in the different currency. So that how to handle. Okay, how to handle, we'll see. That concept we call as cross currency payments. Cross currency payments. So we'll go and see how to handle the cross currency payments. For cross currency payments also, we have to use same setups. Okay, same setups. If you are going to process the cross currency payments, the rates are required and bank account level multi-currency checkbox should be enabled. So pick that here. Cross currency payments. Same setups. Same setups. So you may create invoice in INR and you may process the payment in other currency or else create invoice in USD, process payment in INR. Fine. Already we have this rates and bank account level multi-currency account checkbox is enabled. Now create invoice in USD and process payment in INR. Go to invoice workbench, create invoice. Okay. The supplier name is Alt INC, invoice number, so INC 33. Now we want to create invoice in USD. Fine. $100 and go to lines, enter line amount $100, select distribution set, or else set distribution set at supplier site level as default. It will be defaulted for every invoice. Okay. Now you should take the decision during the invoice creation itself if you want to make the payment for this invoice in the foreign currency. After creating invoice, we don't have any option to choose we want to pay invoice in which other currency. Only during the invoice creation only you can select invoice in which currency and payment in another currency. Once you create invoice, invoice is created in which currency, you have to pay in that currency only. Okay, before you save or before you validate the invoice, we have to select payment currency as a different currency. Go to show more. So invoice currency it is selecting as payment currency. Now change to INR. Okay, just switch to INR. Now save it. Once you save the invoice, it's grayed out. You cannot change the payment currency or invoice currency. So before you validate the invoice, you may save or directly you may validate. Before you save or validate, you have to set payment currency as a different, then only you will be able to process. Once you create invoice, if you plan to make the payment in the different currency, not possible. Okay, that we have to plan and do input that value during the invoice creation only. Now validate the invoice. That validated. Now we'll process the payment. Create payment. Say Alt INC. Select bank account. Payment method, payment currency, we are going to process the payment in INR. Payment currency is INR. And select payment process profile. Select payment document. Now, payment currency is INR. For how many invoices payment currency is INR? Only those invoices you'll be able to see here. Only one invoice. Okay, invoice currency is USD. But here we selected currency for payment is INR. For this invoice, payment currency is INR. Only that invoice is selected, displaying, select it, save. Say save and close. So done. This concept we call as cross currency payments. Foreign currency means invoice in other currency, payment also same currency. Means invoice and payment you can create other than your ledger currency. Instead of calling as functional currency, you can call as ledger currency also. So we are creating invoice and payment in the ledger currency. If you want to create in the invoice in ledger currency or anything like invoice in one currency, payment in the another currency, that we call as cross currency payment. If somebody is from EBS background, this is not possible in EBS. Okay, this functionality we don't have as per EBS. They just introduced only in the Fusion. So that's all about cross currency payments and foreign currency invoice and payment process. Now we'll see the supplier merge.
Sir, one question here.
Yeah.
In which case do we use cross currency and in which case like foreign currency? When do we need to create? Like,
No, it's very simple. See, supplier is giving invoice, okay,
mhm.
in one currency and they are asking us to pay in the same currency. Okay.
Okay, then it's a foreign currency.
Yes, foreign currency suppliers always they'll give the invoices in the foreign currency.
Mhm.
Okay. So one supplier is asking to make the payment in the foreign currency and they give an invoice in our local currency. Okay.
Okay, so in that
Take for
case, it's a
example,
cross.
you take in this way, we are running the business in India and we have a supplier. Okay, we have a supplier and the supplier is from India and they
Mhm.
have an office in US also. We got invoice from the India supplier, but India supplier is saying, hey, send the payment to my different remittance address, US address.
Yeah, yeah.
So they may inform when you are paying a payment to US, you pay in the USD currency.
Okay,
Yep.
okay.
So we get
And
invoice to supplier. Yeah. Yeah, please.
so there can be only two currencies, right? One is the ledger
No, only
currency.
two, only two. More than two.
Third
It is
currency is
not.
not possible, right? So like,
How just see, invoice is one activity, payment in the other activity.
mhm.
So these two
So
activities, you can have a same currency or different currencies. That's all. Since two activities, two currencies only we can use.
no, so for example, can we have like euro for invoice and this INR for payment?
Yeah, that is possible. In that case, between those two, we have to set the rates, and between these two, we have to set the rates with your ledger currency also.
Okay, okay. And
See,
how come we, yeah.
yeah, see, 1 second. Here,
Mhm,
you are running the business in US. So your functional currency is USD.
mhm.
Okay. And other currency is AED and INR. This is your ledger currency. Okay. This
Yeah.
is your ledger currency. You received
Mhm.
invoice in AED and you have to make the payment in INR, right?
Yeah, right.
Now create the rates between USD and AED,
Yeah,
AED and USD vice versa, and USD to INR, INR to
I
USD
know.
vice versa, and AED to INR. and INRTUSD. That's it. You have all these combinations you have to create so that you will be able to create invoice, and the system can convert those balances into required currencies as well as our ledger currency.
Okay, okay.
That's all. Just in between those currencies, we have to define the rates. That is only the task. Just now we have seen, right, how to define the rates, same process.
Okay, so once only the rates are defined, then only we can create the invoice, right? Otherwise, it will not allow if we go and try to change the currency.
Yes, you have to define the rates. You have to define the
Rates
rates.
first.
Yes,
Hmm.
rates first. When you define the rates, the system will understand. So the conversion, what is the rate? And ideally, when you are making the payments, it has to compare with the invoice and all. That is the reason. So in EBS, what they given the control. If you want to create invoice in the foreign currency, in the invoice, in the payable options, you have to enable the checkbox. But here directly they are allowing. Without control also you can create invoice. But ideally when you are processing the payment, really it will look for at the time of invoice what is the rate used. Okay.
Okay.
For that reason,
Yeah.
definitely you have to do it. If you remember, if somebody is from EBS background, without enabling the checkbox in the payable, EBS payables, you cannot do. Here, straight away we are able to do it. Yep. So that is the difference.
Thank you.
Yeah. Now we'll see supplier merge. So why we have to merge? Say we have a supplier called as Alt, for example, Alt IMC supplier 1. Yes, we have this supplier. With this supplier, say we have 100 invoices, 100 unpaid invoices we have. And somebody created supplier called as Alt IMC Corp. And 10 invoices are recorded with this name. Later, certain point of time, we identified the two suppliers are same. Two suppliers are same. So this name may be correct or this name may be correct. You'll take the decision. Okay, supplier is duplicated. Somebody created with this name, they already 100 invoice are there. Someone else created with this name, 10 invoice are there. Now we'll identify this duplication and you'll take the decision. You want to go with what name? Say you taken the decision to go ahead with the name called as, or else let me, yep, it's a supplier corp or say supplier corporation. Okay, so we identified this is a wrong name. Somebody entered and invoice also entered. This is the correct name. Now you want to proceed with this name. Now we'll be merging this supplier with this supplier. When we merge this supplier with this supplier, this 100 invoices also will be merged. Already 10 we have, it will become 110. So that's how you can merge. This is one example. You take another example. We are purchasing from this Alt INC corporation. This supplier has two sites. Site 1, site 2. From the two sites we are purchasing from this supplier. As per our books, with the site 1 we have a 10 invoices. With site 2 we have it 5 invoices. And what this supplier is doing is, supplier is going to close the operations at site 2. Supplier is going to close the operations at site 2, and supplier informed us, hey, as per our records, we have to pay 5 invoices to site 2. We are going to close the site, and please send those site 2 payments to site 1. Okay, it is not possible as per our system. As per our system, invoice is created with the site 1. We have to pay to site 1. Site 2 means site 2. So for that reason, what we have to do is we have to merge this site 2 with the site 1. We have to merge this site 2 with the site 1. When you merge, the 5 will be added. Here 15 invoices will be available with this site 2. no invoices will be available, this site will be inactivated by system automatically. System will inactivate this site. If you merge this supplier with this supplier, since you have only one site with this supplier will be merged with this supplier. This supplier won't be available to create invoices. So this is how we can perform the merge. Or else you have one supplier called as X and you have another supplier called as Y. Both are our suppliers. Those are two different organizations. What happened is company X acquired company Y. They identified in the company X and Y books, we are the customers. Now company X can inform us, we have seen as per Y records, you are one of the customer and you have to pay to Y. Now we acquired Y, no more Y. Okay. So whatever you have to pay to Y, you please pay to X. Now we have to merge in our books Y with X. Okay, because of this acquisition. Maybe because of duplication, you may merge because client is your supplier is closing the specific site operations, you have to merge, or else the two suppliers what you have between those two suppliers, between those organization acquisition may takes place, you have to merge. Reason could be anything. Okay, so how to merge we will see. Yeah.
Once this merge is taken place, will there be any reference for the merged records that this is the old supplier, what supplier name will be
You
there?
have to check in the back end from front end, no? Okay, front end, no? And again, this merge is irreversible activity. Once you perform, you cannot undo this. Okay.
And that is right. When audit purpose or any
Yeah,
purpose,
back end you have to check. Back end only. So you can in the back end tables, audit tables would be there. Separate tables would be there. Audit. So when we write SQL query, there will touch just touch upon that table also where the data can be stored. Okay. So from front end, no, from back end, you can see. Fine.
okay.
Yeah. So now we have already supplier with this name and we'll create one more supplier and we'll merge this supplier with this supplier. Fine. Go to supplier creation page. Create supplier. So name it as Alt INC Corporation. Spend authorized. Tax organization type is corporation. So create. Go to addresses. Add address. And select postal code. Set ordering under remit to save and close. Site. Click on add. Site name is corp. Save it. Set the default information, what you want to default when you create invoice with this supplier site. If you are making the payments always to the supplier site with the bills payables. So whatever the payment method we created, that you can select. This is the one we created. It is coming at supplier site level. You can select if you are paying all the time, future dated payments. Go to site assignments, click on auto create assignments. The BU will be assigned, the site will be assigned to this BUs. Say save and close. Done. Now we have two suppliers. We can go and perform the supplier merge. To perform the supplier merge, go to task list. Here is the task called as merge suppliers. Click on merge suppliers. And here is the request. You can submit the request to merge one supplier with another supplier, or else within the same supplier, you may submit the request, merge one site with another site. Okay. And one site with another site. We'll talk about it, how to do that. Click on plus icon. From
Lakshman, can we create one invoice for this before merging?
sorry,
Can we create one invoice before merging?
why not required, right? We are going to merge Alt INC with corporation. So invoices are there with the supplier one, right? All will be merged with the corporation. That's all.
Okay.
Yeah, we are not going to merge corporation with the supplier one. If that is the case, your point is valid. Yeah. We are going to merge one with the corporation. So from supplier. So Alt INC supplier one is a from supplier. This supplier switch site. If you have multiple sites, site level also you can do the merge. So this supplier with this site, what are the invoices we have? You want to merge with which supplier? This supplier. Now when you merge, what are the invoices you have with this supplier name? Those invoices will be updated with this supplier name. And those supplier invoices are belongs to this site. If you want to use the same site, when system will update that invoices with this supplier name, you can enable copy site. What system will do? It will replace this supplier name with this supplier name, but site name will remain INC only with this supplier as a copy. No, you don't want to use this INC and all. Supplier, the site name also system has to replace, which is belongs to this supplier. In that case, select all. Now, all the invoices which you have with this supplier name and with this site will be updated with this supplier and with this site name. Now, what action you want to perform, what you want to copy from this supplier to this supplier, that you can set as a transfer option. If you select all invoices, system will copy paid and unpaid invoices, paid invoices and unpaid invoices. If you select none, what system will do is system will merge this supplier with this supplier. With this supplier, what are the invoices we have, those will remain as this. Okay, remain as this. With this, nothing it will map. Only the benefit is with this supplier, you cannot create invoices from now. You may pay what are the invoices are available with this supplier name, with the same supplier name, but this supplier will be inactivated. Nothing will be copied since you don't want to transfer anything. Okay, just to inactivate this supplier, you may perform this action, and the system will understand, system will record like merge happened between these two, but no transactions related update took place. Okay, in our records, it will be like this supplier, INC supplier is merged with a corporation. That's how the record will be created in the back end. So as update, so which will help us to treat why this site is, why this supplier is inactivated, because merge happened, that is the reason site is inactivated. There will be reason for it. That way you can use the none if you don't have any transaction with this, or else even if you have a transaction with this, you want to inactivate. But even if you inactivate, if any invoices are available with the supplier, you will be able to pay. That is possible. Payment, yes, you can do even inactivated, but invoices you cannot record. So in that case, you can use the none option. And purchase orders. You want to merge the purchase orders from this supplier to this supplier, you can use this option, or else you can select purchase orders under all invoices. So purchase orders, unpaid invoices, paid invoices, everything you want to merge from this supplier to this supplier, use this transfer option. You don't want to merge unpaid invoices only. You don't want to merge paid invoices, only unpaid invoice and purchase orders you want to merge, select, or I'll just say only unpaid invoices. Okay, anyway, paid invoices are paid. I don't worry about paid invoices. So my focus is on the unpaid invoices. In that case, just merge the supplier with the supplier only for unpaid invoices. For paid invoices, same name will remain as a historical data. So that's how we have to choose the transfer options. Now we can choose all invoices. Anyway, we don't have any purchase orders. So we deal with the P2P we come across. So here only transfer option is all invoices. Okay. And click on submit. Again, it is irreversible. You cannot undo. So you have to take the decision. So to proceed, click on submit. You'll get the same message saying that this action is irreversible, okay, and may result in updating to transaction. Yes, already we selected transfer option. Definitely it will result in updating to transactions. Still, do you want to continue? Yes. Request submitted. And that request process you can see from here also. Refresh. Now system will trigger the program called as merge suppliers. It is running the job, the backend. This you can go and see from the schedule process page, or else directly from here also you can monitor. So it is running. Okay, some test instances, this functionality doesn't work. Okay, if it is not working, don't worry. Just try to perform this. That would be enough. Now go to Invoice Workbench. Go to Manage Invoices. And our supplier name is Alt INC Corporation. Search. Now all the invoices should be available with this supplier name. See, we never created single invoice with this supplier name. Now all got merged. So which are available with the Alt INC supplier 1, all merged with Alt INC Corporation, site is Corp. Done. Now you can check any invoice available with Alt INC supplier 1. Since supplier is inactivated, site number also it is not showing. So here, if you try with Alt INC supplier site number it is showing. Since it's inactivated, no number also, just inactivated. So with this, nothing you find. Okay, no invoice. Now go to invoice creation page. Try to create invoice with Alt supplier 1. So you will not find Alt INC supplier 1. It is not visible here. If you are typing Alt IMC, it is taking corporation only. That is already disabled, inactivated. Go to supplier creation page to check. Manage suppliers. Alt IMC supplier. Here supplier record level you can see. Inactive since today date. Since site supplier is inactivated, what happens to site? Let's go and see. So since supplier is inactivated and the site is merged, there won't be any site at all. Okay, there won't be any site at all. Site merged. That is the reason no site is available. If you have multiple sites with this supplier, if you merge one site, other site would be available. With that, you can create the invoices. Even your supplier will be active. Supplier would be active only if you have more than one site. If you are merging only one site, since we have only one site, if site is not there, what is the use of supplier? That's how it is inactivated. So here inactivation date, you can change, you can remove also if you want to maintain another sites, etc. etc. So that's all about merge. Okay, that's all about supplier merge. Right? Tested.
Lakshman, here payments also will be shown with the new supplier name, right? Which we already paid, or old supplier.
That depends on the options what you select. What we selected, all invoices, right?
Yeah.
All invoices means paid invoice also it should be updated. If you select only unpaid, it will be applicable only for unpaid. Paid invoices, the same supplier name will remain.
In invoice, I understood. Payment level also it will get update.
Yes, yes, it will update. Same it will update.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
paid and unpaid. All invoices means for paid invoice also, payment record also the same it will update.
Okay. In payment, wherever we review manage payments which we already paid, that will also with this supplier name it will get updated.
Yes. Okay, it's done. So now we'll see interest invoice. So when you make the late payments, supplier may charge the interest. So when you are paying interest, with interest amount, system creates interest invoice. Okay, if you are making the late payments, if your supplier is charging interest with interest rate and based on the how many days late, accordingly system has to create the interest invoice. So that we will see as a part of interest invoice concept. If you want to implement interest concept, we have to complete certain setups. So you have to enable one checkbox in the invoice options called create interest invoice at invoice options. Okay. So in invoice options, we have to enable one checkbox. That means business unit level we are enabling. Business unit level we are giving permission to create interest invoice. And you will have multiple suppliers. All suppliers may not charge in case of late payments. Which suppliers are charging interest? So that we have to specify. The set create interest invoice for supplier or say at supplier site and create the interest rates. Create interest rates. After completing these setups, we'll go and create one invoice. We'll create invoice. So we'll create invoice with the 1st Jan 2024 and we'll use immediate payment term. That means due date is 1st Jan And we'll try to make the payment with the today date so that system will identify. So due date is first, so overdue, and we are paying today, how many days late? And for the same supplier, we are going to apply the interest is applicable. So then system will identify it's a late payment, interest is applicable, how much rate out, all it will take, and it will calculate the interest and it will create the interest invoice also. So we will create payment today. When you create the payment today, system will calculate the interest for the past due. And with interest amount, system will create the interest invoice. System creates interest invoice with interest amount. So this is the process. Okay, reality you may create invoice if you are paying late payment, then it will calculate. Now just to test this use case, I'm taking past date so that by today it will be late. First we'll go and complete these setups. Fine. Now just go to invoice options. And before that, anyway, we are at supplier level, supplier work area. Go to manage suppliers. Alt I and C. Corporation is our supplier. Click on edit. Go to sites. Click on edit. Go to invoicing tab. Here, create interest invoices set to yes. Create interest invoices for this supplier site. We are setting as yes. Now, go to invoice options to enable interest calculation for our business unit. Okay, go to invoice options. So within the invoice options, if you scroll little down, okay, here we have interest section. The interest region, enable create interest invoices. And what should be the minimum interest amount to create interest invoice? Say, minimum it should be $5. Less than $5, you don't want to create the interest invoice. And when system would create interest invoice, which account it has to use? That you can provide here. Choose interest expense account. Just start picking this since we don't have exact interest expense. Say okay. Save and close. Fine. So here we just completed two setups and one more setup is creating interest rates. Interest rates. Manage interest rates. Click on go to task icon. Set date range. Okay. Jan 1st to here up to 30 already it's given. You may set like 24 to 24. Rate is 12%. So save and close. So this is how we have to set up the required configuration for interest invoice. Now, as we discussed, we'll create invoice with
But Lakshman, this interest rate is applicable for all the suppliers, right? Not
yeah,
only.
across the board. Yeah. Now go to invoice workbench to create the invoice. Supplier. Alt INC Corporation. INC 44 and we want to create invoice with 1 lakh. Say invoice date is first. And the payment term is immediate. Term date first means from this date plus immediate means 0. This date would be due date. Validate. Okay, validated. Now go to payment workbench and process the payment. Okay. Your payment date is 5th today. The due date is first itself. System will identify it's a late payment. And another point, just notice, you can see inactivated supplier also here. For payment purpose, it would be available. Now just click on add. Here is invoice which we created. Select. Save. Now notice system is calculating interest. $133.33. Now say save and close. Automatically system will create the interest invoice. Now along with this 1 lakh, we are paying interest amount also. Invoice amount plus interest amount we are paying. With the same interest amount, system creates interest invoice. Go to invoice workbench. Click on invoices task. Just select this recent invoices. Here is the interest invoice. We created invoice as a INC 44. The same invoice number it is taking INC 44 INT1 interest invoice 1. Interest amount is 133. Open it. You see the description. Interest for 4 days at 12%. And invoice type is interest. Okay, so system created, auto created. This is a number. And it's already validated. Okay, this invoice is already validated. And this is how just you can create interest invoice. Okay, this is how you can create the interest invoice. And if you
This invoice already paid, Lakshman?
yeah, paid, already paid.
Okay.
Because the moment if you click on this validated, you can see it's paid. Means during the payment only system identified interest, and the moment you click on, save and close on the fly, it creates invoice and it will select the same invoice for payment along with the principal amount of whatever the invoice you selected. Yeah.
Okay, got it. Thanks.
On the fly, everything happens. Fine. So this is all about interest invoice concept. This is all about interest invoice. Okay. And another point, the drawback within the interest invoice is, what is the drawback? Do you see any drawback? Any drawback? Do you think it's good?
Invoice number.
No, invoice, that is nothing. Like, anyway, supplier is not giving invoice, right? Supplier is not giving invoice. The drawback
Interest amount also getting paid with the actual invoice.
well, that's you have to pay. You are paying that invoice amount. You should pay along with that. No doubt in that. The drawback is with interest rates. See, different suppliers may charge different rates.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
As per our application, common rate. It doesn't work reality. Okay. Even most of the businesses, they don't pay any interest to suppliers. Here and there, if somebody is paying, they don't use interest invoice concept. What we suggest to the client is, if you are paying interest, you create one standard invoice separately. You pay 1 lakh, you have to pay 1 lakh that $133.33. For that, create one more standard invoice. Within the standard invoice, use interest expense account as a debit account, distribution account, and you pay. Okay. So you no need to showcase in your books. You are paying interest that will be aligned with interest invoice from the audit point of view in other aspects. So that is not going to be too much highlighted. So we just inform to the business to create standard invoice to pay the interest amount. That's what we do. So this directly you cannot use reality because rates are same. One supplier may charge 12%, other supplier may charge 20, another supplier may charge less. You cannot play that game. Okay, rates are common. So most of the businesses, they don't pay interest to suppliers. If somebody is paying, we'll ask them to enter through manual process. That's all.
The rate goes up based on the aging.
The rate no. The rate won't go based on, yeah, in some cases it would be like that. Yes. Correct. Based on the age of invoice means unpaid invoice age, yes, the rate can be increased. That totally depends on how the supplier is. Yeah.
Contracting.
Yeah, even it is
Lakshman,
fixed also. Yeah, even it is a fixed also, you cannot play with that. Okay. So only one rate across the board.
Lakshman, if I have a multiple interest rates, like first to third one interest rate, third to fifth one interest rate, it will calculate automatically.
Yeah, that is calculated. That will be applicable for all the suppliers again.
Oh,
Yeah. There we have given the date range, right? There you can give
yes.
this
Okay.
slabs.
System will
Date
take care
slab.
automatically. Okay.
Yes, yes. It can pick. It will see if you are paying today. So today is 5th. As per 5th, is there any different rate? It will check.
Okay.
It will pay. But it is applicable for all the suppliers.
Yeah.
All the suppliers, this rate may not be true. So that's how it works.
Okay.
Fine. Yeah. So we're done with this. Okay. Fine. These and all we'll see in the next session.